All right. Hey, Jackie. Welcome to your first viola lesson. So as you know, the viola is slightly different than the violin. It's part of the string family, right? We have the violin, the viola, right? The cello, a little bit bigger one, about the size of us, and then the bass, the one that's really big, right?
Okay.
So that's the string family. They all have four strings. They are all bowed instruments, creating sound out of the wooden acoustics coming out of it. Very lush and beautiful sounds that these instruments can make. All right, so the first few things you want to take notice of is that each instrument, as you can see, we have both here. Each instrument, comes in a case and whatnot. And let me just, real quick, zip her up real quick. So both of these are violas.
Oh.
Yeah. So I figured I have my viola and your viola, so we both work on it together. So the first thing you might want to notice is when you go to practice the instrument, it's in its case, and the last thing you want to do is like fumble it over and let it drop out of the case, very carelessly, right? So always make sure that you can see like this is kind of like the top half of the case, right? So you always want to place it flat down. You got your zippers. You open it around like that, and you lift up, right? So you never want to open the case on its side or upside down, right? Because then it falls out, and as wooden instruments are, they're very delicate, right? Cool. So let's, so we have this little thing here that we just, the little Velcro, we take it out of, and voila, a viola. So here, that's for you to hold, and I have mine. Very cool. Great. So now we have, that's unexpected. As you can tell, we have steel strings that are attached to the instrument, right? A few things about the instruments just to get you familiar with it, right? We have these things called tuning pegs. These are the things that basically put pressure to the strings and give it, the pitch that it has, right? And it's attached to this little funny wooden piece here called the bridge, right? So that all kind of works here. Last thing I want to point out to you is the bottom here, called the chin rest, right? That's where we're going to set the instrument and relax it. Cool. So most musicians do this, including myself. We like to use, let me just move the camera a little closer. We like to use these things called shoulder rests, right? Because you put it right on your shoulder. So let's just put, if you give me that for a second, rest this carefully on your left shoulder. So that's where we're going to, right. Good. And actually, wait. So this is actually, so if you see, I'm sorry, I didn't explain very well. This part, you see how these little feet things, these are going to be the things that grab onto the instrument, right? So it's actually going to be the soft pad right here, that's, the very comfortable spot, that's going to be laying like that. Yes, so you're going to put it right over your left shoulder, right like that. Good. And you could just actually, without your left hand, let go. Yep, and just let it, that's okay if it falls, just, right. So that's basically how it's going to feel, because when you're holding the instrument, we're not going to have either hand holding it, right? Because we want a lot of flexibility. Good, so that's how it's going to look. So we're going to, as I show you, so you see how the soft padded part of this is going to go towards the side of the chin rest, right? You wouldn't want it the opposite way, because then you'd be leaning on the metal. That's not comfortable, right? See that? So I'll put that on right for you, okay? And this is how we're going to approach. So we're going to hold, as my teacher liked to call it, holding the instrument like a chicken right now, right? You can just grab it by the neck like that, right? So this is the neck of the instrument. Good, and we have it in your left hand. Wonderful. Okay, and I'm going to use a little bit less budget. Oh, we'll bring it to the shoulder in a second. So this is how we're going to approach. I know it might be a funny new concept to you, bringing the instrument up to your shoulder here, right? So I'm going to use a sponge because I'm on a low budget. But so here's the little technique that we like to use to have a pretty good setup. Okay, we're going to hold the instrument out with our left hand like this. Great. So make sure that it's, there you go, great, facing completely outward, right? We kind of like to call this analogy the Statue of Liberty, right? You're holding it like this, right? And we know that these instruments are facing upward, right? If you ever see the bass or cello, right, they're sideways and people play it sideways, right? This is kind of like an upside down type of instrument, right? So what we're going to do, so we're going to hold it up like the Statue of Liberty, right? And we're going to turn it around. If you could turn your hand around. Oh, it's a little too far. So what you might want to do is bring it bring your hand lower down on the neck. There you go. Good. I know it's a little bit of a big. I wish you were playing the violin.
It's just a little heavy.
Little heavy. I'm sorry. So, what we're gonna want to do is if you can turn your hand around, right? Would you? Let's see if you try this one. This one's a little less heavy. Is that less heavy for you?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So then you know what we could do before you bring it up. I might as well move the shoulder rest onto that instrument. Okay. Yes, I know some of these instruments can be a little heavy. Okay. And I understand they have a little bit of a shorter arm. It's a little bit of a disadvantage here, right? So let's try comfortably. Let's take, you know what, for now, let's take your right hand, grab the instrument, right? And let's just practice. So let go with just take the right hand, hold on to the instrument, let go with your left hand, right? And let's take the left hand and not touching the instrument, and let's just make like a turn like this. Can we try doing that? It's kind of like taking a soup can off the shelf. Let's turn it this way. You want to look at the nutrient facts. Good. So to make sure, the one thing I also want to mention is that your arm, very good, is at like a 90-degree angle, right? So just make sure it's very comfortable, right? You don't want to twist your hand too much. See how your wrist is nice and straight and your elbow and your arm is at like a 90-degree angle. Great. So that's the shape. That makes sense, right? Cool. Now that we have that shape together, let's put the viola on the left hand now, right? Okay? And let's try to make that shape. I know the instrument's kind of big for you, but let's try to make that shape. Let's turn it around like that. Good. Now, before we place it on our shoulder, we're going to want to look at the center dot right here, okay? And we look at that center dot, and we just want to bring it and tuck it right under and place our chin on top of the chin rest. Okay? And how does that feel? Is it a little uncomfortable?
It's a little like...
You know what might help? So what we would have to do here, and I'm sorry I didn't do this in advance, it might be a little tall for your liking. So what we could do, you see how these are screwed on, right? You can screw these down to make it shorter, right? You know, and I apologize, I kind of have a giraffe neck, so, you know, so it's kind of longer for me, right? So we turn it this way. And it should be, let's just put this back on, should be much lower for your neck and a little bit more comfortable. So let's try that one more time. We're going to take the instrument, we're going to turn our hand around, make that 90-degree angle, look at the button, and comfortably place it on the collarbone and place our chin over. Okay, let's give that a try. Ready? Good. A little bit better? Okay, so, and like I said, I do apologize. It's not a violin. The viola is bigger, so it's going to be kind of hard for your shorter arm to reach. Not kind of making fun here. Let me see real quick. These are about the same size. This one's a little bit smaller. I apologize. This one's a little heavier, but for your sake, I think you should try using this one because it's not as long, and I think your arm would reach comfortably, okay? So we're going to switch this. Let me just... Let's put this on here. Okay, and let's try that one more time. Okay? I know it's a little bit heavier, but I think it's more appropriate for your arm length, right? Let's turn it around. Good. Place it right under and tuck your chin. Good. That's actually not looking bad. So, and you had your hand correct before. Let's have it. I'm going to hold on to the instrument. Let go with your left hand. And try having your hand curled over. Good. Okay. See? That's not so bad, right? Good. Now, for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to hold on to the instrument. We will get used to more of holding the instrument on in later lessons, but for now, let me hold on to it so we can just practice this exercise. Okay? Yeah. So you're doing great so far. So let's bring our left hand back over, right, and try to curl it around. Good. So we have 4 strings, okay? And they are all different notes, okay? So from the lowest string, you're just going to follow with me. This is the note C. Up, right? The one over is G. The one over from that is D. And the last one is A. Okay? Just a little bit studying you might have to do to get familiar with the instrument, okay? So what we're going to do here, very relaxed with the left hand. That's why I'm holding the instrument for you. Make sure it's very relaxed. Let's see if we could take your first or second finger, reach over, and pluck the C string. Not bad, very good. Let's make sure all our fingers are curled and relaxed, okay? Good, and let's try to reach over and pluck the C string one more time. Very good, great. So let's try doing that with the next string over, the G string. Great, and can we try the next two? Great, very cool. So I want to try a couple of things with this, right? So now we tried it down here. And as violists or violinists do, we kind of play up and down this black long strip here we call the neck, right? So let's try placing our hand right here. Good. So that was kind of like the lower position, right? Let's try to move our hand a little bit upward. Good. And now we're going to try plucking up here. Good. And the next one over. Awesome. And then I think we're going to try even more so. See, if you notice that your hand comes in more kind of like an arch or like a machine moving in like this, right? See how the elbow moves in and caves in? And let's try even a higher position right here. As far, don't reach too much if you can't, but good, if that's a comfortable, right, you can try that. Very good, cool. So you can drop the left hand for a second, and I will demonstrate again for something for you to work on, right? So we had the lower position, right? And as we see, as I move my hand up, you see that my forearm and my elbow come closer. See how it extracts and contracts, right? So you can try the low one, the middle, and move it all the way up, okay? The last thing I did want to mention to you, I'm sorry I didn't mention it before. I will hold the instrument, don't worry, with the left hand. As you go up the instrument, well, I'll just show you real quick, back over here. As I go up the instrument, for the first position and the middle, my hand is just, my arm is contracting, right? As we go higher up, it's going to be kind of uncomfortable and a strain for our hand, right? So if you see, my elbow is going to kind of like clock outward, right? Not too much, but just a little bit. So if I see my hand, watch the whole motion right here. It's going to go up. So this is going to contract inward, and the elbow is going to go outward. See how it kind of moved out? See, now I can reach, right? Because before you were kind of like stretching and straining your hand like that, right? So let's give that a try. We're going to try just on the C string. We're going to try the low position, middle, and then higher position. And as we do that, we're going to contract the arm and move the elbow out. So let's try the low position with the left hand. Yes. Yeah, let's try just the C string for now. Good. Let's go to the middle position. Good. And now the high position, move out the elbow. Good. So see how that's a little bit more comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think we are going to stop there. Just a few things to review with the instrument. I will give you a diagram with all the different parts of it so you can get more familiar with it, right? We have 4 strings. We are going over how you want to hold the instrument, right? This is the rest position at the neck. Hold it like a chicken, right? You want to turn it outward like that, right? You look at the button. Carefully place the chin rest under, right? And you have your shoulder rest that goes right next to your collarbone, right? And it sits comfortably. Now, I know this is new to you, but eventually when you get more comfortable with it, you can drop both hands, right? That's the idea, right? No, I understand it's very new and it's not comfortable and you want to secure it, right? And the other thing is, so we have that. We have the 4 strings, right? You can see how the hand moves over to each string. As we move up to pluck and play on the instrument, our arm contracts, and even more so, our elbow moves out, right? So the last thing I did notice is that your fingers were not quite used to it and kind of sticking out like that. One thing you could practice in just the low position, having the hand nice and curled fingers like this, right? Just like the example you were saying with the soup can, right? You grab the can and you move it around like that, right? That's good. That's the hand frame you're going to want. And by moving the arm up and having that 90-degree angle, you have a nice straight line. See how there's no tension there, right? So that's the idea, okay? So those are some things to keep in mind. All right, very good job.